Hello, everybody. I hope this is recording. But yeah, so I remember doing like a video a few days back about like Family Guy and stuff like that, and then I like went into this like diatribe about fucking nonsense about South Park, and I realized that like let me like clean my screen. Sorry, I'm always like I feel like I should do that beforehand, but anyways, but I realized that like I kind of wanted to do like my own little like ranking video because there's like a lot of videos online about like ranking all like the Simpsons videos or like not videos like episodes and then ranking all of like that and that, and I've seen like majority not majority but like most of them I've seen um most of the LS Mark ones and then like other ones and I've seen I think I don't remember who did it. I think it was like Bloom that did it, and like I think it was like their review of most of the episodes. But I wanted to do my own because I don't know, I'm just interested in doing it, and I'm not gonna sit here and like pretend like I'm like this like really knowledgeable person about South Park. I like I said, I have watched it multiple times in my life, and I've like watched it throughout like different like periods within my lifetime, but I have not like I'm not like the most knowledgeable. Like I don't know what goes behind that scenes. I have not like done any like I sometimes go on the Reddit and like see what the general reception of an episode is, but other than that, I don't really do a lot of research. And I used to engage in the fandom back then, but nowadays I don't really do that because I feel like it's not really beneficial for my mental health. So yeah. And so I'm not really in like the big like South Park community or whatever, but like I said, I do watch a lot of the episodes and I do have a lot of opinions. And so I just wanted to do my own thing. It's not gonna be like overly edited like the other videos. I'm not gonna like put any like clips on the screen or anything like that. So it's if you guys are gonna watch this, don't even bother like watching it. Just put it in the background and just listen to whatever I have to say and just call it a day, okay? Because I'm not gonna do any major editing because my MacBook, if I even try to edit anything more than like on iMovie, it's gonna crash and like literally like piss shit and do everything, and I have a lot of important stuff on here, so I want to preserve that, okay? And so that's my thing. And another disclaimer: if you guys have any different opinions to me, or you guys have like like, oh, you're stupid, this and that, like I don't care. I do care, but I don't care, because like I said, a lot of things are very subjective. And so if I find a certain like episode really boring or like just boring, or just like I don't like it or I hate it or something like that, that's not to say that I think that it's a horrible episode or like stuff like that, or like I think you're a horrible person for liking it. Because I know some of y'all like to take things personally, and I don't know why, because it's like it's my opinion. That doesn't mean you have to believe it, okay? But like it's like, yeah, whatever, okay? Because like I'm not gonna get offended if someone's like, oh, your opinion is stupid. I'm like, okay, but it's my opinion, so I don't really care. And if someone says that my favorite episode is their least favorite episode, I'm gonna be like, okay, what does that do to me? Like, what does that do about me? Like, what does that say about me? Nothing. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. I know some of y'all are really protective about this series and really protective about like what the best episodes are or what's the worst episode and this and that, but like I don't really care. I just watch it, and if I like what I like, I like what I like, and if I don't like something, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna skip over that in the next rewatch. And so yeah, I don't know how many seasons I'm gonna get through because I do have class in like a couple hours, and I have to commute there, and so I have to make sure I have a lot of time for that. But let's see. Okay, so the first season, okay, and I think talked to this. I think I spoke about this a little bit before, that like my favorite season is the first season because I just think it's just a really good all rounder season. It has a lot of good like memorable moments, and so I think it's probably one of my favorite seasons, if not like the best one in my opinion. But like subjective. I don't know. But yeah, so the first episode is Karma gets an anal probe, and I feel like that's like one of the most iconic episodes. I think that was the one that I watched when I was younger. I don't know if it's the first one. I think the first one I watched was something like once we come to it, I'll say it. But like right now, it's not the first one. But I have seen this when I was like way younger, and I quite like the episode. I think it's a really good like setter, like in like a good introduction to the boys, and a really just good like introduction to South Park as a town. And I don't remember much of it because I tend to skip over it, but just because I watch it so often that I'm just kind of like, okay, like I get what it is. But yeah, I think there's a lot of really funny moments in there, and so yeah, I mean it's overall really good. And the animation can get a little janky sometimes, and some things about it is a little kind of iffy, but otherwise I think it's fairly good. And then the next one is the Weight Gain 4000, and I actually fucking love this one. This one is so fucking good. It's the one where Cartman has like gains weight because he like wins this like competition about writing, and he literally copied David Thoreau. And Wendy finds out that he copies like David Thoreau's essay, and so she like goes to bitch to Garrison about it, but Garrison is like too busy wanting to murder what's her name, Catherine something, like something. It's like this lady that comes into town, and like apparently she like won this it's like singing contest, and Garrison's like, that bitch must die because she wound up him in like a elementary school like talent competition. And so he pulls like a JFK, like whatever the shooter's name is. He goes into like a building and like tries to shoot him, but then like Wendy and Stan goes up there to like try to talk him down. And yeah, and then it turns out that like Chef has sex with her or something, I don't know. But yeah, overall a really funny episode. Beefcake. Oh, Kathy Lee Gifford, yeah. And so yeah, Garrison wants to yeah, a really funny episode. I think it's fairly hilarious. Not one of my favorites, but it's definitely like up there. And when Cartman's in that little like okay, and then so the third one is Volcano, and it's basically about the boys going up like camping with what's his name, with Jimbo and Ned. And then so they go up there to do a little bit of hunting, and it turns out like Jimbo really likes Kenny, and Stan is really jealous about that because that's his uncle. And so yeah, that's basically shenanigans. And Cartman like tries, this is like the season where Cartman's kind of like not evil yet, he's just a really dumb fat kid. He's just a really dumb fat kid, and so like he just says the dumbest fucking shit, and it's the funniest fucking thing. And so he like tries to be scary and like tries to talk about what's his name. Oh, I'm like, I should have searched up the summaries, but I'm just trying to go off my head because I feel like it's a lot more fun. But like it's like, oh, it's like a monster that has like celery as an arm, and like a basket for a leg, and like another dude. I can't remember what the fucking name of it is, but like he like tries to tell the scare, so it's like that thing is not real, and then he's like, it is so real, and then he like tries to dress up as a monster, and then turns out the monster is actually real and helps the town get saved by like an explosion of volcano. And like the B story is that there's like a volcano that's about to erupt, and Stan's dad, what's his name? Randy is like working as like a seismologist or whatever. And then it turns out there's like, and then they show like this video of like of like a fire safety, like of how to evacuate a town. And then so they start digging and stuff, and then they're like, aren't there boys up there that are like camping and stuff? And then yeah, and then I don't remember what the fucking creature's name is, but saves the town basically. And yeah, it's a really funny episode. I think my professor even showed this in class when I was in geology, because he was like, this is actually a really funny example of like, I don't know, igneous rock or some shit like that. And so we watched it during class, and I was like, oh, that's funny. But yeah, okay, this is one of my favorite episodes, Big Al's gay boat ride. It's one of my favorite episodes because it introduces the gay dog. Fucking gay dog. That's like one of my favorite little quotes, like gay dog. And it introduces Sparky, which is Stan's gay dog. And it's like the funniest fucking episode because I don't know what it is about this episode, but it makes me like cry, laugh every time the little kid says gay dog. I just love the episode, and I just love the fact that like Stan's like, I don't want a gay dog, I want like a Rickatintin dog or some shit like that. And then they're like, oh, this is a gay dog, that's a gay dog. He's doing something to the behind of the dog. I just something about it is just so good, like so good. And then the way that like Big Gay Al is treated as this like mythical like creature, I think it's like kind of funny, but at the same time I don't know like how the gay community received it at the time, but I think it's pretty funny from what it is, like a gay little animal sanctuary, and they go in and the lion is like meow. Something about it just slays. Okay, and then the B story I think is like the boys are on a football team, and Stan's like this like star athlete, and then Pip wants to, you know, play in the game, but then he's like, well, I want to play in the game, but then like Chef is obviously the coach, and he's like, Pip, you cannot fucking play. And then yeah, I don't know. And then oh yeah, another thing was like Jimbo and Ned like were like hyping up Stan to the entire like fucking town, and the town was like, oh, so you think you'll actually win the game this time? And then he's like, yeah, I bet my son, my nephew will win that game or whatever. And then so the entire town like bet on Stan, and then like Jimbo was like, holy shit, like I don't think he's that good, like I think I was just like hyping up too much. And then so they were like, oh, we gotta do something to the other team. So Jimbo and Ned like strapped explosives to the other team's mascot. And the way that they had to detonate it is like to sing "Loving You." Loving you is easy cause you're beautiful. Do 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 do. And like the joke is that like I think it's like the cousin or something that of that singer that sings it, but he cannot hit the high note for the life of him, so he can't detonate the fucking bomb. And like for some reason, it just detonates after he like finally hits it. I think it's funny, but yeah, that song gets stuck in my head every now and then. Loving you is easy. I don't think that's a song, right? Who do 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 do. I don't know. I don't know if that's a song, but yeah, that's what the song is. And then this episode, I kind of forget what it's about, but I think it's where I think Cartman has a little baby pig, and then Kyle somehow like orders a big ass elephant online, and then so he's like, well, I can't have this elephant in the house because my mom will beat my ass if I have a elephant in this house. And so they were like, and then so there's like this science project that's going on, and then so they go to like a Professor Mephisto, and that's when he's like introduced, and they were like, can we breed this like potbelly pig with this elephant? And he's like, potbelly elephant in a pig DNA just won't mix or something. That's a song that they sing and stuff like that. And then turns out they can do it, but like Chef has to like serenade them with a song. And yeah, and I think that's the entire plot. I don't remember what the like if there was a B plot to this. But yeah, it's a funny episode, just not one that I remember quite well. And this is the episode. Death is the episode that I saw as a kid, like really really young, like when I was like in elementary school, because one of my cousins, he was like this really really edgy skater dude, and so he put it on like on the TV when we were having like a family like party, and for some reason like the parents just allowed us to watch it. And so I remember like Kenny just getting dragged along during in this episode. I think it's the funniest fucking thing. But basically grandpa wants to get fucking killed. He wants to commit suicide, but he's not able to, and so he tries to get Stan to kill him. And then so Stan has like really big conflictions about this, because he's like, well, I don't want to kill my fucking grandpa. So he goes around asking, he goes to ask Chef, like, Chef, can I, like, my grandpa wants him to kill me and stuff like that. And then the adults just don't give him any advice, just like, oh, like, I'm not getting stuck in that, like. And then I think I don't know if this is around the same time that Terrence and Philip were introduced, but I think that the grown-ups at the time, like Sheila especially, was like, hey yo, like what the fuck are you watching? She was like watching in like one of the episodes of like them farting on each other or something, and then so she gets all the parents mad about Terrence and Philip, and then they end up going to like New York to like rally in front of this like agency. And so yeah, and then so the boys are left at home alone, and you know what, they end up watching fucking Terrence and Philip because they're home alone with other adults. And so the grandpa still wants to get murdered, and so like the entire time the boys are trying to watch Terrence and Philip, grandpa is like trying to get Stan to kill him, like by like giving him a rope, being like, hold this, Stan, and then he like tries to hang himself and stuff like that. And then there was like, I think like a C plot or something where Kenny like has this sickness, and so he like gets like diarrhea and stuff like that. And so when the adults are at the rally or whatever, it turns out like Kenny's sickness like spread around the adults, and so they're all shitting their fucking brains out, and then it was considered like a biological weapon. And so the news station or whatever, the whatever station was like, okay, you guys know what, like you guys are like murdering us with your like fucking biological weapon, so we'll take Terrence and Philip off the show and put on a new show. And then yeah, and then I don't remember what was like replaced, but I think it was like maybe like Fat Albert or something, and it was like, hey, I don't know, and it's like, you big fat bitch or something like that, I don't know. But yeah, and then oh yeah, back then, not back then, back to the boys, they like, I don't remember, I think Death like shows up out of nowhere, and then like they start chasing Death around and stuff. Death like starts chasing the boys around and stuff, and then Grandpa starts chasing Death around because he wants to get killed. And then they just run around town and stuff, and then they like end up watching, they like stop in front of like a TV, and like there was like Terrence and Philip on the TV or something, and they were just like stopping and laughing at it. And I think it's like the funniest fucking thing. Death starts laughing, and then they start running, and then it turns out Death was just there for Kenny, I think. And then there was like an apparition of like Grandpa's great grandpa, so Stan's great grandpa, and was like, I told you to kill me, Billy, but I didn't want you to kill me. And it's like, my name's not Billy, and stuff like that. And then yeah, that's basically the episode. I think that because it was like one of the first episodes I was introduced to, I think I have some nostalgia for it, but at the same time, I don't know, I think it's a it can be a touch and go like episode. It's not something I skip, but it's not something I'm like, oh, like it's my favorite episode, you know? But yeah. Oh, I think I really like Pink Eye. Pink Eye has to be like at least one of my top favorite episodes, just because it's just, I don't know, something about it is really fucking funny. So basically, there's like, I don't know how the outbreak started. Let me try to think. Oh, so basically at the beginning of the episode, there's like this like space, like this space station that like falls to the ground and like hits Kenny, kills him. And so there's like a whole funeral for Kenny, and they go to, and then so his body gets sent to a morgue, and the morgue people are like drinking Worcestershire sauce or whatever, and then the Worcestershire sauce accidentally gets spilled into the embalming thing, and so Kenny gets like resurrected, um and then oh yeah, and then he gets resurrected and he bites one of the attendants, and so they go to the doctor, and the doctor prescribes him with pink eye, and so there's like this epidemic of like pink eye going around, and then so Kenny like just is alive again, and he goes to school with the boys, and basically what the boys are dealing with is that there's like this costume contest, and Stan and Wendy were supposed to go as Raggedy Ann and the other one, and Stan dressed up as like the Raggedy Boy, and then everybody else dressed up as Chewbacca, even Wendy, and then Stan was like, what the fuck? And Kyle was having this like big thing about like, oh, like I want my like costume be really unique and stuff like that, and so he like switches costumes and stuff. I think he went from like I think he was like Chewbacca or something, and then he was like a planetary system, and then he was a vampire at the end. And then Cartman, of course, comes out of the fucking ballpark as Hitler, and then he like goes to Principal Victoria's office, and she like gives him an outfit that like resembles a KKK member, and when Chef sees him, he like starts screaming, which I'm like, oh my gosh. And then he like ends up wearing that outfit throughout the entire series. I'm just like, not series, episode, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But yeah, and so the boys go trick-or-treating, and Kenny just keeps on biting these people, and they realize that the entire town is like basically infected with like zombies, which is also known as pink eye. And then so they have to call the Worcestershire sauce place to basically get like the recipe to like revert people back. And then so the entire time that like Kyle is trying to call the Worcestershire sauce people, Stan and Cartman, and I think it's just Stan and Cartman, they were like chainsawing people's heads off and stuff like that, and like killing people. And then so Stan like has to kill Wendy, but he's like really apprehensive about it. And then Kyle figures out that like they have to like cut off the first zombie's head with a chainsaw, so he ends up like killing Kenny. It's like, oh my god, I killed Kenny. And yeah, and that's basically the episode. And yeah, and Wendy ends up winning like the competition because of her Chewbacca costume. Everybody showed up in Chewbacca, I guess, and so yeah. Let's see. And so okay, so episode 8, I don't remember a lot of it because I think I skipped this one, or I just don't pay attention to this one. But basically, it introduces the character of Starvin Marvin, and he's this Ethiopian kid that is under the sponsorship of what's her name? Sally Southers, that's her name. Sally Southers. I can't say her fucking name, but basically the boys are just watching a commercial, and there's like this really sad thing, and they're like, oh, we can get a fucking watch. What's it called? Like a something watch. Like a I don't remember, but instead of getting a watch, they ended up getting an Ethiopian boy, and they could like bring him around school and stuff, and I don't know, they just like bring him around and teach him like American things. And I remember that there was like this one scene where they were at like a Thanksgiving table, and like Cartman's just like eating all this food, just like not allowing Marvin to eat, and I was just like, oh my gosh. And then the government comes back and tries to take Marvin away, but then Marvin was able to lie and say that Cartman was him, and then so they took Cartman away instead of him. And then so Cartman ends up in Ethiopia, where he's like, I'm starving, and he like goes around like just dicking around with the villagers, and then he finds out like Sally's oh my god, I'm not even gonna say her lot. Like Sally has like all this like stockpile of food, and then he goes in there like ducks her out, and then he gets like all the people around, I think, to like rally against her and stuff like that. And yeah, he just ends up like going back, and yeah, I think there was also like an outbreak. I think there was like a story in the background about like Thanksgiving and like families, and then there was like this like canned food drive for Kenny's family, and all there was like creamed corn. And then so I think I think there was like this like you know how there's like a money blowing machine where there's just like money inside, you have to go in there and grab as much money. So that was a basic concept of it, but instead of money there was cans, so they threw Kenny in that thing, and he was yeah, he got beat to death in a can blowing thing instead of and or maybe he didn't. I don't remember if he got beat to death or not, but yeah, yeah. And then I think Professor Mephisto was like trying to genetically modify turkeys or something, and there was like a rabies infested like turkey thingamabobber, and there was like I don't know if it's like a 3000s parody, but like basically there was like a turkey side and a villager side, and they were just duking it out and stuff. And yeah, I don't know, not one of my favorite episodes, but a funny one nonetheless. Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh. I think that this one is kind of funny, but like the more Mr. Hanky shows up, I think this is the only instance where Mr. Hanky is kind of funny to me, other than the one where they were trying to get the iPod when he has like the Pooh Choo train. But we'll come to that when we come to that, okay? So basically, this episode introduces Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh, and Kyle is the one that introduces it to him because his parents taught him it when he was younger. So basically, the school is like trying to get away from that like Christian aspect of Christmas, and so they were like asking around. I think like Sheila had a problem with like Kyle playing Jesus because he's a Jew, and so. She was like, I can't believe we're doing a Christmas scene with my son's a Jewish person and stuff like that. And so he was like, oh, can we just do like Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh? And she was like, Kyle, shut up. Like, that's not a thing. And so all the other boys were ripping on him because he's a Jew. And he's like, sings this really good song, okay? I'm a Jew, a lonely Jew on Christmas. It's a really good song. Okay, I quite like it. And so basically, Kyle goes through this thing of like trying to prove to the boys that like, Mr. Hanky is a real person. And so, he like brings his poop to school. And he's like, hey guys, look at this. And then he opens the box and it's like a dried piece of shit. And everyone's like, ew, Kyle, why did you bring a piece of shit to school? And then he gets in trouble for bringing poop to school, and he goes to like Mr. Mackey's office, and like he's like trying to talk Kyle through it, and Mr. Hanky hops in his like cup, and he and then Mr. Mackey drinks it. It's like, ooh, you Mookie stinks, Kyle. You're playing with Mookie stinks. And then Kyle just gets sent to like an insane asylum because people think he's crazy for believing in like a talking piece of shit. And meanwhile, the entire town's trying to figure out like how to do a Christmas play without being too religious. And so they go through like this big thing, and then the play ends up being like this big piece of shit. And yeah. And it turns out like Kyle was actually right, because Chef was like, oh, you mean Mr. Hanky? And everyone just believed Chef because, you know, he's Chef. And yeah, and then he gets released from the institution, and yeah, Mr. Hanky suddenly becomes a thing. Yeah. Oh, I really like this episode. Damien, I don't think it's very popular in the fandom, but I think it is fairly popular because Damien is a very popular character. But basically, this is an episode. How many episodes are? Okay, I'll just try to do the first season, and then I'll come back with another one because my voice is going out, so we'll come back with another one. Okay, so basically, Damien is an episode where a boxing match between Jesus and Satan come to life. So basically, a new kid comes into class. His name is Damien, and he's like the son of Satan. And so he like tries to fit in with the kids, but they're all ripping on him and stuff like that. And basically, like Kenny says that his mom's a dog because when he dropped it off, like apparently his mom is like a real dog or something. And so Damien has to like hang out with Pip because Pip's a loser and he's a loser. And so Pip just like walks him around and stuff, and he gets bullied and stuff like that. And then I think the B story is that like Cartman has like a birthday party going on, and he wants everyone to get him like a ranger, so that like I think Kyle's get him like a green ranger, and so this and that, and so he like create like this mega ranger or some shit like that. And so everybody's super excited to go, and like Pip was like, I didn't get an invitation, and Cartman's like, well, fuck you, Pip. And so the two boys, Damien and Pip, are trying to get an invitation to Cartman's party. And so yeah, and then so Damien has this like hissy fit in like a playground and stuff, and he like starts throwing shit around. He's like, my dark father has come to life, and he calls you out, Jesus, and stuff like that. And so yeah, Jesus gets called out, and Satan comes on earth, and they do like this weigh-in where Jesus is like 100 pounds and Satan is like 600 pounds of meat, and everyone's like, that is a man that eats a lot of meat. And everyone in the town just bets on Satan because he literally has like 600 pounds on Jesus. And And Jesus is just like, everybody has forsaken me. What will I do? And stuff like that. And so he goes to the boys to try to help him like train. And then so the boys take him to Chef and he trains a little bit. And then yeah. And so apparently the fight with Satan and Jesus are on the same day as Cartman's party. And so everybody's like, oh man, what should I go to? And so yeah, and then so people go to Cartman's party, and turns out Kyle did not get Cartman the thing that he wanted, so he throws a fucking hissy fit, like, you've got fucking ants in the pants, you got me ants in the pants, or some shit like that. He gets fucking mad, and then so the boys just leave and go to the fight, and Jesus is getting his shit rocked by Satan, and then it's like Stan gives him like this speech that's like he thinks is from the Bible, but it's actually from Star Trek, and then Satan throws the fight, but like. So Jesus technically beats him, but it was revealed that like Satan throws the fight because he wanted to steal all the money from the people because he was the only one that bet for Jesus, because yeah, and yeah, that's basically the thing. And then it turns out like, oh, Cartman's a really spoiled kid, so yeah, because his mom just like constantly feeds him cake and stuff like that. No more pie and stuff like that. And then yeah, so Pip, I don't know what happens to Pip. I think he gets blown out into space or something like that. Oh yeah, I think Damien becomes like accepted by the boys at the party because he like blows Pip off into outer space because Pip revealed that like Cartman used to be unpopular just like him, but then he started making fun, but then Cartman started making fun of Pip, and so he became more popular. So Damien took that idea and just made fun of Pip and then just blew him out to outer space and became popular. And then after Satan beats Jesus, he has to go back, and then yeah, and so that's what happened to Damien. Yeah. And then Tom's rhinoplasty is basically Mr. Garrison goes in to get a nose job, and he ends up looking like this I know it's like a really like famous actor. I just don't know who the fuck it is, but he like, it's like one of those instances where they put like the real life actor's face on top of the character, and so he gets like this nose job, and so there's like substitute teacher that comes in for him when he's like getting the procedure done. Her name is Miss Ellen, and the boys find Miss Ellen the hottest fucking thing ever. Like, she's so fine that every single boy wants her. And so they go to Chef asking him for some advice, and obviously like Stan and Wendy are kind of a thing. They're kind of like a thing, but not really. They're not really I think they are dating. I don't know. But basically, Wendy's like, Stan, on Valentine's Day, can we like build a cardboard fort and stuff like that? And like Stan just forgets all about that because Miss Ellen comes in, and Wendy gets jealous. And then so Wendy goes like this arc of like trying to like one up Miss Ellen. It's like, get away from my boyfriend, you stupid bitch, or some shit like that. Meanwhile, the boys are trying to get Miss Allen's attention, so they go to Chef asking for his like advice, and he's like, oh, is she hot like this and that? And then so he like goes and try to hit on her, and then it turns out like she's like a lesbian. I highly doubt that she's a lesbian because it feels like she's just saying that not to go on a date with Chef. Okay, but anyways, she said that she's a lesbian and does not play for the same team, and the boys don't know what a lesbian is. And so they like go out and ask, and it turns out, and like they like get all this information. Like there was like this one scene where like Cartman is like licking carpet because his mom says that lesbians lick carpet, and I thought that was pretty funny. And I don't remember who it was. I think it was Kyle that came back with like Birkenstocks, and it was like, this is what all the lesbians wear, which I found really interesting as well. And yeah, and so there's Miss Ellen like does this thing where she like tries to reward the kids by like if someone does really well on like a spelling test or something, she'll take them out for dinner, which is kind of like but yeah, so she'll take them out to dinner and stuff like that. And then Stan ends up winning the competition, and Winnie just like gets so dejected, and then she's like, okay, like this is it. Like she even dolls up for him, like she tries to get fined and whatever the fuck, and she whatever. And then so yeah, and so she like goes up to Miss Ellen. It's like, Miss Ellen, I just want you to know that like I don't have anything against you, and you can have Stan and stuff like that. And then so Miss Ellen was like, I have nothing. I'm not interested in Stan and stuff like that. And then it turns out that like I don't remember how it happened, but basically Mr. Garrison's like nose job like goes too well, and all the women in the whatever the fuck in the town were like chasing him around. He's like, I don't want this nose job anymore, so he like had to revert it and stuff like that. And then like while Miss Ellen was like trying to teach a class, this was at the end of the episode, like some dudes came in like accused her of being a part of like Al Qaeda or some shit like that. I don't remember, but yeah, so yeah, she was arrested, and then she was shot into outer space, and then it turns out like Wendy was the mastermind behind the whole thing. And so yeah, so basically Wendy killed Miss Ellen. But yeah, Mecha Streisand. I actually kind of like this episode too. I used to skip over it as a kid because I was just like, I don't really like it, but I think it's a fairly funny episode. It's basically about, it's basically starts off as the boys going to like an archaeological site where they're just like digging on a field trip and stuff like that. And like so Cartman sings this dumb fucking song, and I think he ends up finding like the eye of something. I don't remember what it's called, but it's a little like triangle thing. And he like was like, oh, this is a piece of trash, and throws it away. And Kyle picks it up and was like, hey, yo, this is pretty cool. And then once Cartman sees that Kyle thinks it's cool, he's like, no, it's mine. I found it first. This and that. And so, can we Rochambeau for it? And Rochambeau is basically like kicking each other hard in the nuts as hard as possible to see who throws up or whatever. And so yeah, and so they get on the news and stuff about it, and then so what's her name? Barbara Streisand sees these boys on TV with the fucking thing, and she's like, oh my god, that's the eye, or that's a triangle of Synthar. Oh, it's a triangle of Synthar. And so she goes to South Park to try to get the triangle from the boys. And so she's like, do you know who I am? And the boys are like, some bitch with a big fat nose. She's like, I'm Barbara Streisand. And then so the boys are like, no, fuck off, like we're not gonna give it to you. And Cartman is still like trying to get the thing back from Kyle. And so I think like she basically just kidnaps the boys. Yeah, she just kidnaps the boys, and they like tie them up, and then like they torture them, and she tortures them by singing to them or something like that. And Cartman gives it up that like the thing was in his shoe. Yeah, and then I think there was like this like plot of like Cartman trying to get the thing back from like Kyle and stuff like that, but it's not that important. And then what else happened? And then oh yeah, so meanwhile that was happening, some guy, I don't remember what his name is, goes to Chef and like tells Chef about the lore about like Barbara, whatever. And there's like, I just remember the Cure being a thing. I don't remember who the rest of the celebrities were, but yeah. So Robert Smith of the Cure is like one of those people that like are the protectors of like the Synthar or whatever. And so once Barbara gets like the triangle of Synthar or whatever, she becomes like a Mecha Streisand, and so she goes around South Park destroying it and stuff. And then so they have to call up Robert Smith of the Cure, and he like becomes like Robert Smith of the Cure, whatever, and he like fights off Barbara Streisand. And there's like Japanese guys, Babura, Babura, Shigoi no Ito or some shit like that. I don't remember what it is, but yeah. And then yeah, so Robert Smith beats Barbara Streisand, and yeah, and Disintegration is the best album ever according to Kyle, is what I remember from the episode. It's I hear it's a pretty iconic episode, but it's pretty to me. I think it's a funny episode, but it's not like something that's like, you know, great to me. But it's on like a lot of people's like high ranking lists, which I think is like, you know, their opinion, and I'm not gonna say too much on it. But yeah, okay, last episode before I log off. I think it's just gonna be like a series, and I'll just put like it into like a compilation or something. But yeah, so Cartman's mom is a dirty slut, which is the last episode, and it's like one of those like cliffhangers, because I don't know if like they were not expecting to get a renewal or something. I don't remember. I think there was like, I don't know, but basically Cartman, let me try to think. Oh, I remember. Okay, so basically, Cartman is like, he like, the boys come over to Cartman's place because he's like skipping school or whatever. The boys are like, can Cartman come out to play? And then his mom's like, Diane, she's like, no, he's back. He's playing with his toys right now. And so the boys go in the back, and they see Cartman like, having a tea party with, you know, Clyde Frog and whatever the fuck. And the boys are like, what the fuck? And so they like record him and stuff, because they were like, oh, like we think Cartman is like going through a thing. And Mr. Mackey was like, maybe you can record him and I can like psychologically analyze him and stuff like that. And then so they record him and stuff like that. And then instead of like giving it to Mr. Mackey, they sent it to the Bob Saget show, where it's like America's Funniest Home Videos or something like that. And Yeah, and then they were like, "Oh my gosh!" And then meanwhile, that's going on. Cartman is like going through this like thing where it's like, "Mom, why don't I have a dad? You know how Kyle has a dad. You know how Stan has a dad. You know how Kenny has a dad. How come I don't have a dad?" And so Diana was like, well, isn't that?" And then, well, I remember the barn dad. So basically, Cartman's mom is a whore. Um, and she like hooked up with a lot of guys at this barn dance. So the first person she hooked up with was an Indian chief. I don't remember what his name was. But yeah. So I think I don't know what his name was, but yeah, he was a Native American chief. And so Cartman believes that he's naive American. That's what he says, naive American. And so he goes into the thing, onto like the reservation, and he's like, "You're my dad." And the guy was like, "No, I'm not your dad. Your mom is what she calls um like doe who cannot close her legs or some shit like that. I don't remember what it is." And then they were just like, "Your mom's just a fucking whore." And then he retells the story. It was like, the last person I saw who was with her was, I think, Chef or something like that. And then so he believes that Chef is his dad, and so he dresses up like this and he like goes up to Chef's like, "I can't believe you're my dad." And Chef was like, "No, like that's not it." And then so Chef was like, "Oh, I think the," and then I think like in the flashback scene, Chef was like kissing Diane and stuff, and then like Mr. Garrison pulls up with Mr. Hat, and they're like, "Oh, you want to have a little three-way?" And then Chef was like, "No, I don't want to have a three-way with two dudes." And so he bounces, and then so Cartman is led to believe that Mr. Garrison is his dad, and then he goes to Mr. Garrison and was like, "I can't believe you're my dad." And he's like, "I'm not your dad." Um, and then he was like in a bar or something. And it's like, "Kid, anybody can be your dad because your mom's a whore." And he's like, "What? What'd you say about my mom?" And he's like, and Mr. Garrison was like, "Okay, if anybody in here has not had sex with, who in here has not had sex with Diane?" And everyone like raises their hand and stuff. And the only person that didn't raise their hand was Happy. And Happy is like this character that doesn't have any legs. And it's like, well, that's because you don't have any legs, Happy. And so yeah. And then Dr. Mephisto was also in there, and so he was like, "Oh, well, if you have the money, I can I can DNA test you to see everybody in town to see who's your father." Um, and then Cartman was like, "Oh, how much is it?" And then I think it was like 2,000 or something. And then so flashback to the boys, their video gets like picked for, I think, second place. On the Bob Saget show, so they get $2,000 or something like that. And the first video that won was a one that Grandpa Marsh took of Kenny getting ran over by I think a train. So yeah. And then so Cartman goes over to the boys' house and was like, "I want to know who my dad is, but I don't have enough money to get a DNA test." And the boys just kind of fessed up and were like, "Oh, like Cartman, I think we know where you can get the money." And so Cartman gets mad, but obviously he gets the money. And yeah, and so yeah, all the men are lined up in Mephisto's lab and stuff like that. And then Mephisto fills out this envelope and is about to announce who is his dad. And then, there's some this thing where it's like a who done it moment. It's like, oh, and then it goes to black. It's like, "Oh, who is Cartman's dad? Find out in the next episode." And yeah. And that's all I remember. I cannot believe I'm like able to do this off the top of my head. This is how you know that I'm like, because like this is the only like summary that I'm looking at. Like all you see is all I'm saying. So I cannot believe I remember all of this. But yeah, I'm gonna log off now. Hopefully, yeah. So let me just do a recap. So my favorite episodes. Oh, sorry. My favorite episodes are Big Al's Gay Boat Ride, Pink Eye. Yeah, Pink Eye, and yeah. So those are my favorites. Let me know what your favorite is in the first season is. I'd be really interested to hear, and I would like to know why as well. And yeah, that's all I have to say for today. And I will come back with you guys with another chatteroony. I don't know. All right, kisses.